tries to be your very best.
Hello everybody, welcome to Education for Life. Today I'm going to talk about the eighth demand-driven principle that I will call great ideas are not necessarily viable. Why I've included this one? Because this is a late inclusion in the demand-driven principles. Why? Because most people make this mistake thinking that their great ideas are viable. In life, I have found out that out of 100 great ideas, maybe one is viable. And out of 100 people, maybe one is viable. Most people are not viable, and most great ideas are not viable. It doesn't mean it is not a great idea. That's all it is, a great idea. People too. Doesn't mean the person is no good. Most people are good people, but it does not mean they're viable. You have to understand the difference between something that is viable and something that is not viable. So a great idea may be a great idea, but do you have customers? Can you sell it at a price the customer wants to pay for it? Does it meet customers' needs? So you got to do all that. You got to research it. You got to do the feasibility study on your great idea. But always the assumption must be, this is the most important part in business. The assumption must be this great idea is not viable. It's a good idea, it's a great idea, but it is not viable until I prove this is viable. And I think the way to explain it is like in court. Even a known criminal in court is considered not guilty until the prosecutors prove that that person is guilty. Just because he is a known criminal doesn't mean he is guilty. In business, just because it is a great idea does not mean it is viable. You have to prove that this great idea is viable. If you go into business with that assumption, you have done yourself a favor. You have eliminated a lot of stress. Because I know in business, a lot of people start up and they fail within a few months. And they blame themselves, they are stressed out and all that. All because they started out thinking their great idea is viable. And when they fail, they feel that they are a failure. They hide in shame. They want to be seen in public because people are laughing at him. But if you start off with this assumption that my great idea is not viable and my job is to prove it's viable, and if I prove it's not viable, there's no harm lost. It's not viable, and I have to move on to my option 2, option 3, option 4. That is how you have to think, because that is the truth. This business of thinking your great idea is viable is an illusion. How do you know it's viable? It's only a great idea. How do you know customers are going to buy it? How do you know they like the price that you've set? You don't until you find out. So please, do yourself a favor. Everything you do from now on is not viable until you prove it's viable. And people too, don't believe in people. Well-meaning people too. They may say things that they think is true, but check it out yourself. Investigate whether it's fact or it's only gossip. That is very important. A viable person will never accept what people say until he proves that that information is factual or is just gossip. I mean, a lot of people they're not lying intentionally, but a lot of people don't know what the facts are. They only hear it from secondhand from someone else. They never bother to check whether it's true or not. And you're going to get into trouble if you don't do this, if you don't check yourself. So when you're doing feasibility study to prove whether a great idea is viable or not, don't give this job to someone else. It's something you cannot delegate. You can, but you get into trouble. Because when you delegate, you're only getting second-hand information. You need first-hand information. Go and check it out yourself. Is it true? Is it not true? Is this factual or is it not factual? Investigate. Be diligent. Investigate the details. They always say the devil is in the details. This is the meaning of it. If you don't have the details and you make a decision to invest your money, you are likely to lose all your money. And the fault is yours. It's not someone else. Don't blame other people. It's yours because you're either too lazy or you're too gullible. You listen to other people. Don't be like that. And if you take this up in this last principle, no great ideas, whether it's yours or someone else, no great ideas are viable until you, not someone else, you prove it's viable. And if you can prove it's viable, by all means invest in it, and you're likely to succeed. But be careful. Is it truly viable, or is it just your ego because it's your great idea that you think is viable? And then you go about trying to prove that your great idea is viable when it's never viable in the first place. So please do the opposite what most people do. Every great idea is not viable until you prove it's viable. And thank you very much for listening.
Of my very